Would you join us in the national anthem?
There are plenty of environmentalists that think that endangered wildlife is more important than endangered people. We don't, but we think both are important. And there are plenty of isolationists who think that conservation dollars spent on the other side of the world is frivolous. We don't. We think it's a damn good investment in our national security, and we think it's a moral imperative. Ask Colin Powell. He was a skeptic. Then he came to realize that most of the conflicts in the world are due to increasing competition over dwindling natural resources. He got it, and then he wrote our position on it. And that is that America's future security hinges on 1, freedom, democracy, and good governance. 2, sustainable development. 3, good stewardship of natural resources. But we're spending tens of billions of Yankee dollars around the world on disasters, defense, development, poverty alleviation, education, disease abatement and prevention, etc., and they're all great causes. But conservation is just getting the leftovers. It's a pittance proportionately, really. It is the International Conservation Caucus Foundation collective goal to see that good conservation policy, American conservation leadership permeates every aspect of U.S. foreign policy and U.S. foreign assistance policy. This must become America's new priority. This must be a top priority. Now, I take great pleasure in introducing my little brother, my guide in the forest, Dr. Michael Fay.
Well, I guess they would say, who would have ever thunk, that the International Conservation Caucus would have ever become this scene, And seeing Mr. Tanner and Mr. Shaw and Mr. Royce and Mr. Udall on that film kind of talking the talk made me think, now we got to walk the walk. And I think we will. With guys like that, we can't lose. And I have to say that, David Barron, I met him for the first time back in 1991 or so in Congo. And he was sweating, he had malaria. And I thought, who is this guy? What is he talking about? And here we are today. The rest is history, as they say. Something else that happened way back when, back in the early 80s, when we were trying to make things happen in the forests of Central Africa. I was working with Richard Carroll, who is in the audience tonight. And we didn't have any money. We didn't have the resources to put the focus on these forests. And we were watching the poaching happening in the Central African Republic. We're watching these incredible populations of elephants get wiped out. And this guy named Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia started sending me money. You know? And one day, you know, I heard that the company wasn't doing so great, and you know, their bottom line wasn't quite working out. But I got a personal check from him. It's probably back in like 1985 for $10,000. And you know, Patagonia has, I think, proven that you know, as a private business, you can think about the future of the planet and make provisions for that within your ethos and your operations and survive as a company. And I think that humanity in general can do that. And I'm only supposed to speak for 90 seconds, so I've already far exceeded that. But I hope that this Conservation Caucus will do what Teddy Roosevelt did for conservation internationally rather than nationally, which is to bring conservation to the forefront of our psyche. Because if we don't do it now, we're going to be in sad shape very soon. I hate to say it, but we have the opportunity, and we need to seize that opportunity. Thank you. Okay, again, this is supposed to be honoring Yvon Chouinard. You think about Yvon Chouinard, you know, the first thing he really started doing was climbing up these massive faces in Yosemite and camping illegally. But, you know, he's become a success. But really what he's tried to do is convince the world at large that it's not him, it's his company, and it's the ethos. So the International Conservation Caucus Foundation presents the Conservation Leadership in Business Award to Yvon Chouinard, who, you know, if you know Yvon, the book that he just wrote was Let My People Go Surfing. And I think that's probably what he did today. Presents the Conservation Leadership Award in Business to Yvon Chouinard in recognition of your leadership in international conservation by setting a high standard for environmentally responsible corporate practices. Rick Ridgway, who is unfortunately not surfing today.
Thanks so much, Mike. I am Rick Ridgway, a very close friend of Yvon's, and have worked for years at the company. And I think it's first important to point out that Patagonia is a privately held company, and what that means is, Yvon says, is that we can do whatever we want. And what we've chosen to do is use our success not only to make not to make our shareholders super wealthy, although Yvon and his wife Melinda are certainly comfortable, but rather to use our business to improve the health of this planet that each and every one of us share. We started over 30 years ago making tools for mountain climbers. The company is still full of climbers and surfers and skiers, and most of us still spend a lot of time in the mountains and in the ocean, and because of that, our view is ground level, and because that's where our experiences come from, they've influenced how we see things. Yvon and my favorite climb in the world used to be on Mount Kenya, a route called the Diamond Couloir, 500 feet of beautiful, hard ice right smack on the equator. The only place in the world you could see elephants with glaciers in the background. And now it's gone, melted. 15 years ago, we skied across the Larsen ice shelf in Antarctica. I remember it was like crossing an infinite plateau of wind-sculpted ice. And maybe some of you remember that satellite photograph so famously published just a few years ago when the Larsen B broke off and the whole thing floated away and drifted into the warming sea. So we've had a ground level view. And because of that, we've also adopted a new mission statement in our company that directs our actions and guides our decisions to make the best product, to cause no unnecessary harm, and to use business to inspire and implement solutions to this environmental crisis. Make the best product. Well, if you grew up making climbing equipment that your life depends on, you get that in your blood. But make the best product while causing no unnecessary harm. Now that's an order of magnitude more challenging, and it means you commit every day to reducing the size of the footprint that your manufacturing leaves on the planet. In our case, it means discovering from an internal audit that our most harmful manufacturing practice was using conventionally grown pure cotton, and converting 10 years ago to using only organically grown cotton in our clothes. And it means our current effort to adopt take-back responsibility for our entire line, the first clothing company in the world to do that, recycling our customers' worn-out clothes and turning them into new garments. And in the case of our synthetic clothes, capturing in a closed loop the petroleum used to make the fibers. And that may not seem like a big deal now, but all of you in this room know that it's going to be a very big deal in 10 or 20 years. Use our business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. At Patagonia, we take 1% of our sales right off the top, and we give it back, mostly to smaller grassroots groups that are fighting to save their backyard forests and rivers and beaches. It's our Earth tax, $25 million to date. The main thing we want to do, however, the most important part of our mission is to inspire other businesses. Some of you may have read recently in the papers that Walmart clothing, and that instantly turns everything we make into a commodity. But if our business is more challenging as a consequence, so be it, because the earth is a healthier place, and for that, Walmart, we applaud you, and we encourage other companies to follow your lead. And for all of you in the audience who are in business, know that in our experience, every time we've made a decision that's right for the planet, it's also been a decision that turned out right for our bottom line. We may be just a bunch of mountain climbers, but we know it's important to make a profit. In our case, that gives us more to give back. But more importantly, much more importantly, without a profit, we in no way could win the respect of other businesses, much less hope to influence them. As Yvonne says, it's okay to be eccentric as long as you're rich, because otherwise you're just plain crazy. So for us, profit is a vote of confidence from our customers that they like what we're doing. It's not the goal, but it's the essential tool to reach the goal, to use our business to improve the health of this planet we all share. Because at Patagonia, we also remind ourselves daily what our friend and mentor David Brower told us: there is no business on a dead planet. Thank you for the award.
Friends, I'd like to introduce the former Congressman from New York, maybe the almost Senator from New York, our friend who's Vice President of J.P. Morgan Chase and member of the Foundation ICCF Advisory Board, Rick Lazio.
Thank you, David. I'm delighted to be here tonight. I'm particularly delighted because there's so many colleagues from both sides of the aisle that are here to celebrate the International Conservation Caucus's maiden event. It's really a wonderful bipartisan bridge in an era where there isn't a whole lot of that. So we're proud that you're here today and joining us. I'd like to acknowledge, if I can, it's not really my job to do this, but I'd like to acknowledge one of my best friends, Portman, who's going to be one of our honorees very soon, who took his really phenomenal legislative skills and applied them to helping to protect their rainforest. He made me a better public servant, and I'm very proud of the caucus for celebrating that tonight. But my job, which is not really a job, it's a privilege, is to present Harrison Ford with the Good Steward Award from the International Conservation Caucus Foundation. Oh, you can applaud for that. I'm thrilled to be able to introduce him. I tried to meet him a little bit earlier. I almost had 2 ribs broken by a number of very attractive ladies in the audience. Just trying to get close to him. The star of some of the biggest blockbusters and highest grossing films of our generation. Over 30 years, he's been almost everywhere. The Star Wars trilogy, Indiana Jones, and American Graffiti, just to name a few. But there's so much more to him than just his star power in the movies. Harrison has had a long commitment to conservation issues, from donating half of his considerable Jackson, Wyoming ranch to the Jackson Hole Land Trust, to working as an airborne watchdog all over the New York City watershed. Harrison, like many of your characters, your actions speak much louder than words. He is a Conservation International board member. I was speaking before with Peter Seligman, the president. Says 10 years, Harrison's not just a name, he's been an active member of that board. You've used your talent and money to support animal conservation, land preservation, and biodiversity. Through your art, you've also showed millions of us some of the most spectacular natural settings in the world. The Mosquito Coast, which was filmed on location in Belize, provided stunning vistas of the river and jungle. They asked Harrison later on who cleaned that exploded ice maker and whether ozone-depleting chemicals used. Harrison, it's a great pleasure to be able to give you this award on behalf of the International Conservation Foundation, Caucus Foundation. It will read, the Good Steward Award to Harrison Ford in recognition of your leadership and extraordinary personal commitment to international conservation. Congratulations.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. I'd also like to thank Congressman Bill Archer, Congressman Ed Royce, Clay Shaw, John Tenner, Congressman Tom Udall, and Senator Sam Brownback, as well as the entire International Conservation Caucus Foundation for this event and for this very special award. We've just heard a bit about the importance of corporate responsibility. I would like to shift the focus to that of individual responsibility, if I may. The Earth is both our only home and everyone else's home at the same time. This is all there is. There is nowhere else to go. It is our ambition, and it is a worthy ambition, to get the planet's inhabitants to understand that they must do their part and take individual responsibility for conserving, protecting the idea that unites ordinary people in this cause, not just here in the United States, but internationally around the world, can embrace. Your responsibility, by virtue of the fact that you are sitting here tonight, is to do the heavy lifting. Changing thinking, changing the most contentious issues that we have to address is what you were elected to do. This is your individual responsibility. Encouraging strong economic opportunity and doing what's good for the environment can go hand in hand and are of vital importance
of your constituents and our economy. You have both a public trust and a moral imperative. As you debate and as you shape legislation that will help ensure our future, I implore you to be bold and to place humanity and nature ahead of politics. Because easy to say, isn't it? Because each of us has an individual responsibility. I want to take the time to thank you all for what you've done so far, and to encourage you to do more, and to congratulate you on what you will do. Thank you very much.
That is helping to protect these through the administration's enterprise of the American Initiative. It's out there doing a job today, and it is setting a foundation for expansion throughout the entire world. There's not enough that I could say about Rob Portman. And I've been given 90 seconds. I may already have gone over that. I apologize if I have. But he deserves to get this award tonight, and it's my pleasure as chairman of the foundation to present that award to him. And although I don't have the award in my hand, I have before me a piece of paper that tells me what is on the award, and so I will read that to you. The International Conservation Caucus Foundation presents the Teddy Roosevelt International Conservation Award to Ambassador, Congressman, Ambassador, Director, take your pick, Rob Portman, in recognition of your innovative leadership in international conservation policy while in the United States House of Representatives as author of the 1998 Tropical Forest Conservation Act. Rob, if you'll come forward, it would be my honor to present this to you.
Bill, thank you very much. It's nice to be able to call Bill Archer chairman again. So thank you to the ICC for making him chairman. I did have the honor of serving with him in the U.S. Congress. And Bill, thank you for your friendship, for your encouragement, and for the example of integrity and principled leadership that you have allowed me and other members of Congress here and so many other young people to see. I am delighted to see this crowd tonight. You know, when Dave Barron first called me, he said, we're going to do this inaugural event, and I'd like to have you be part of it. And I said, Dave, you know, how many people are going to show up? I mean, this is the first time. Who knows about the ICC, really? And he said, well, we'll do pretty well. Well, you did really well. And congratulations, everybody who's here. It's a tribute to the importance of the work. It's also a tribute to Harrison Ford. Really, really neat. And it's very humbling for me to receive the Teddy Roosevelt Award tonight when I'm in a room full of people who have done a lot more than I have done for international conservation. It's also pretty cool to be here with Harrison Ford and Robert Duvall, who are among, of course, all of our favorite actors, and I enjoyed hearing Mr. Ford's comments. And Yvonne, wherever you are, out on that beach, I want you to know my family loves Patagonia. We are large contributors, which you have to be to be able to afford those things. But we also love the commitment to conservation of Patagonia. To Harrison Ford, I have a confession. I actually became an anthropology major in college because I wanted to be Indiana. The lofty and matted forest rose like a green wall on either hand. The trees were stately and beautiful. He was way ahead of his time in understanding the importance of these forests. I believe Teddy Roosevelt, In a speech on conservation almost exactly 96 years ago tonight, Theodore Roosevelt said, "I recognize the right and duty of this generation to develop and use the natural resources of our land. But I do not recognize the right to waste them, or to rob, by wasteful use, the generations that come after us." More than any other president in our history in terms of conservation, setting aside nearly 230 million acres of land. He shouldn't. The Tropical Forest Bill follows the example in the sense that it protects the world's most valuable tropical forests through a market-driven, common-sense exchange of government debt relief for natural resource preservation. We recognize an opportunity. Heavy debt burdens on developing countries and the need to service that debt are a contributing factor to rainforest destruction. What the debt relief provides these governments is a viable economic alternative to the short-term benefit of more natural resource exploitation. And the bill was also a deliberate collaboration across party lines and ideological lines. And it was also a deliberate collaboration with results-oriented conservation groups. They provided the expertise and frankly provided the grassroots political support to get it done. It was built on the foundations of the Enterprise for the Americas initiative established by President Bush 41. It was signed into law by President Clinton, and has been supported and improved by President George W. Bush. The original co-sponsors were the lead Democrat on the International Relations Committee, Lee Hamilton, and the Republican chairman of the Budget Committee, John Kasich. Their stature and credibility, frankly, were key to our success. Today, other members, including many of those here in the room today, as well as Congressman Mark Kirk, Democrat Tom Lantos, and Senators Dick Durbin and Joe Biden, are keeping the initiative moving forward in a bipartisan way. The idea for the program actually evolved from meetings we had about 10 years ago with many of the very organizations that now form the founding partners of the International Conservation Caucus Foundation. That's the Nature Conservancy. It's Conservation International, the World Wildlife Fund, and the Wildlife Conservation Society. Without your help, ladies and gentlemen, who represent those groups here tonight, in creating the program and your ongoing commitment to its success, and it's making a difference. We are told that over 41 million acres have now been conserved as a result of the Tropical Forest Conservation Act. I've had the privilege of visiting some of these magnificent forests, as have many of you in this room, and seeing the results of your work. Going back to 1998, the United States has also made a significant investment in this program of nearly $120 million of taxpayers' money. Public funds that have leveraged other funds have been used as leverage for serious conservation. We have now finalized 10 agreements in countries such as Bangladesh, Belize, Colombia, Jamaica, Panama, Peru, and the Philippines. And it is possible that more exciting agreements will be announced, even in the weeks and months ahead. I'm not allowed to announce them, but there are groups in this room who know more about it than I do, but we're still making progress. 6 of those 10 agreements, by the way, have involved debt swaps with conservation groups. Again, some of whom are founding partners of the ICC Foundation. These conservation groups provide part of the cost of the debt reduction, and then they participate in the management of the programs. These are unique public-private partnerships, as was talked about in the film, and they're key to even further leveraging those public dollars and also ensuring that we have good management of the important conservation programs that result. All this is good news because these valuable forests affect the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the medicines we need. They act as carbon sinks, and they help regulate rainfall on which agriculture depends. And because of their rich biodiversity, which are breeding grounds for new foods and medicines and a destination for ecotourism, they are particularly valuable and valued. The hope is that the Tropical Forest Conservation Act can be a model for future bipartisan and balanced legislation that achieves results in helping preserve the environment. I applaud the work of the Foundation and, of course, my former colleagues who are members of the caucus, including the co-chairs I saw tonight, Clay Shaw, John Tanner, Ed Royce, Tom Udall, Senator Brownback, Senator Durbin, and so many other members, former colleagues and friends who are here tonight supporting the work. I look forward to working with you to advance thoughtful dialogue and develop creative new solutions for international conservation that would make Teddy Roosevelt proud. Thank you again. Thank you again for this very special honor, and Godspeed in your important work.
Please pray for us. Thank you and good night.